Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Grandma's Cooking, written by Storm's Wrath. Have you ever wondered why no one attacks the humans? To answer that, we'll have to go all the way back to Earth's first contact. Now you see, like all species, humans search for alien races in the deep dark of the void. They colonized their solar system and had many fledgling colonies in nearby systems when the Niril contacted them. To a human, apparently the closest comparison to the Niril that lives on their planet is a creature called a gecko. After a typical diplomatic exchange, the galactic community was surprised to learn that humans were fractured into nearly 100 nations, both planetary and spacebound. Usually, when a species begins its forays into space, it has already achieved total unification. But the humans laughed at the idea of any actual unified government when the Niril brought it up to them at the time. A few years later, a true exchange began. Technology, architecture, resources, history, culture, and of course, money were all shared between the two species. Surprisingly, the human home system's asteroid belt was extremely rich in rare elements required for FTL drives. Somehow, the human diplomat realized the worth of the material and were able to buy a few FTL drive schematics. Their scientists had apparently already come up with the idea of an Alkaburi drives, as they called them, and just needed the final push to begin testing. The Niril noticed that Earth had several habitats that were very well suited to their species. After a series of complicated communications and many political maneuvers, they began to settle, particularly in an area called the Sahara Desert, furthering the relationship of both species. Now, what does this have to do with the current situation of the galaxy? Well, you see, the expansion of humanity into space was over 20 times faster than any species had previously recorded, apparently due to the competing interests of their nations. Humanity had settled 30 systems around their home planet within 46 galactic standard years of their first contact. 20 systems which only had colonies with a few thousand inhabitants, 6 systems with massive industrial infrastructure being built, and 4 systems each with over 100 million humans within them. The humans say the reasons behind this exodus involved overpopulation, despite the fact that all sentient species known before them regulated their breeding long before the issue could hope to arise, and a sense of adventure. They built only 250 vessels in their defensive fleet when the Lanquim, a highly expansionist and paranoid species, attacked one of their colonies. This attack had taken both the humans and the Niril by surprise, but both species quickly mobilized in defense of their human systems. The Niril, being an experienced but small interstellar power, had somewhere around 10,000 ships. After the first few battles, the Lanquim First Strike fleet was eliminated, but with heavy losses on both human and Niril lines. It was clear that in less than 4 human decades, they would lose the war. The Niril condemned the Lanquim Federation in Galactic Council and imposed hefty sanctions upon them, but this did not stop the Lanquim from continuing to push into human space. The humans fought them for every system with a near-suicidal fervor. Both the Niril and human forces were pushed back to the Alpha Centauri and Sol systems when a human diplomatic vessel arrived in the Galactic Council meeting station. Now you see, most of the Council species did not care about the war between the humans, Niril, and Lanquim, but the humans made them care. Not with insanely powerful strength or through firepower, economic might, or fear. They did it through cooking. Yes, I know it sounds ridiculous. When I heard the news of the new alliance between the 30 Council species, the Niril and the humans, I growled with mirth. Surely it must have been a joke or propaganda. But it was true. According to the Galactic News Network, the humans presented gifts to the Council species. Items such as sweet potato pies, pound cake, Grandma's Christmas special stuffing, candy yams, and more were given to a few of the member species' ambassadors. Meals had been prepared from carnivore species, herbivore species, and even the omnivore species in the Council. After a thorough testing against poisons, the Oimreed ambassador, Mulwukrim, was the first to try the pumpkin pie. The antlers glowed with delight as they made their species' version of a smile. "You must try this," Mulwukrim exclaimed, their personal translator somehow showing their personal excitement index as a 9 even though the translator's maximum value was an 8. How that was coded into the translators, I have no idea. But soon after, the Oimred ambassador and the other species began trying these meals. When asked where these culinary glories came from, the human ambassador, I think his name was James something, anyway, the human ambassador said, "My grandma, of course. She's the best cook in the galaxy." That appeared to be true. Even the council's insectoid races, the Bay Oilina'ul and the Rereda Amatand, got their meals in. The human sweater is considered a delicacy, the Bay Oilina'ul now, only affordable to their more affluent citizens. Not really for lack of supply, but because the Bay Oilina'ul are such a large species that they can consume dozens of these sweaters in one meal. To them, only eating one sweater would be similar to us eating a whisker-sized sliver of meat. That is, not considered a meal in any way. Supposedly, the Bay Oilina'ul planetary governors now dine exclusively on these human sweaters, and the Rereda Amutatand now wear these sweaters as part of their spawning rituals. Their council representatives, High Supreme Diplomacy Specialist Queen Rakilin Netreti, had been enamored with the sweater both for eating and wearing, to the point where she boarded the human diplomatic vessel to accompany them for the return journey to Earth, after getting the ship fitted with the newest and fastest FTL drive designs. Her official statement was, "These little guys are better friends to me now than my own antennae, and I'll be with them when I die." Her diplomatic escort fleet helped prevent the human ship from being destroyed by a few Longquim strike groups on its way back to Earth. After this council session, the Multi-Species Alliance, since named the Galactic Grandma Protection Alliance, or the GGPA, immediately mobilized their fleets when they learned that Earth contained hundreds of millions of these grandmas. In the interim, the Longquim had broken through the Alpha Centauri defense fleet's lines and were busy eliminating space stations in the system. They had already devastated the human colonies, shipyards, and automated industrial facilities in the other systems. But the humans weren't a stupid enemy. With the neural help, the humans had been bouncing signals off hundreds of thousands of asteroids, which were little more than rocks with communication beacons strapped to them. This caused a great many issues with the Longquim war fleet, particularly since intel was shifting constantly on which targets were worth attacking with the strike group, and which were not. Longquim only had so many ships, and since FTL travel was only possible around 1400 solar diameters from the star, they eventually gave up on finding every last human hideout. As it turned out, later on, all communications were a smokescreen for a small station orbiting around one of the binary stars. This station had housed a signal beacon which occasionally and randomly sent powerful bursts of microwave lasers into deep space, which was actually powering a separate colony in a rogue planet many thousands of solar diameters away from the system. By the time the GGPA fleet reached the Sol system, the Longquim war fleet had left the Alpha Centauri system and begun their journey to the human homeworld. They were surprised to see the massive construction fleets underway in the Sol system for what the humans called a Dyson swarm, inside the orbit of the innermost planet. The war had taken long enough for the theoretical human design to become a practical and physical weapon. The GGPA thought that the humans were going to use the same satellite signal swarm strategy in the Sol system as they had in Alpha Centauri system. After all, if a strategy is successful, why not use it again? When the Longquim war fleet arrived in Sol system 6 months after leaving Alpha Centauri system, the humans opened fire on the Longquim ships. Powerful focused lasers strafed the shields and armor of the Longquim war fleet from the Dyson swarm, destroying around a 20th of the fleet. But the Longquim soon adapted, randomly firing their thrusters every few seconds to avoid the laser shots. So the GGPA fleet requested that the Longquim surrender, a formality at this point. Once 100 Galactic Standard Time units, or about 4.3 human hours, had passed, the GGPA fleet, Grandma's Retribution, engaged the Longquim war fleet. The battle lasted for 6 human days, as both fleets made their initial attacks against each other before crumbling into thousands of smaller battles. A few of the Longquim ships fled the system entirely, while most were destroyed by the GGPA. After the last exchanges, a new diplomatic station was established by the GGPA on the moon Ganymede, with the help of High Supreme Diplomacy Specialist Queen Rakilin Netreti. This station soon made the humans the trade capital of the Council, Here the species of the GGPA met with the humans, the neural, and each other to discuss trade deals, scientific collaborations, and of course, more meals from the grandma. Imagine how pleased they were to find that there were enough grandmas for everyone. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Caspar Arnholt, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishikal, Dragzoon, WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.